At 32, Rae Callahan didn't see the use in marriage. Folks swore a night without a spark made for loud mornings, but he never believed it. Women scolded whether they were kissed right or not. Accepting that old saying felt like an insult to every man he knew, his father, his uncles, accusing them of starving their wives of warmth. Rae refused to think so. Still, the frontier had a way of teaching a man in truths hotter than any blaze. Autumn of 1883 gilded Willow Bluff in amber and rust. Dust drifted through the main street when Martha O'Rourke stepped into the Monarch Saloon, her wicker basket tucked against her generous figure. At 28, she was used to stares, some curious, some cruel. Today, her chin was high. She had business to do. Martha, sweet thing, called Ida Belle Canton from behind the mahogany bar, her painted mouth curving into a genuine smile. "Did you bring the goods?" "3 rose, 2 lavender, 1 mint for headaches," Martha said, setting the basket on a nearby table, fresh as the morning. The piano jogged a lively tune while cowhands and merchants laughed through tobacco smoke. "You're a blessing," Ida Belle said, polishing a glass. "Let me settle with that gentleman jawing over cattle, and I'll get your payment." Martha smoothed her dark blue calico and took a corner table. She'd earned respect for her creams, even if her unmarried state drew whispers like burrs. "Hey, Callahan," a rowdy voice cut through the piano. "When you gonna quit playing bachelor and find yourself a woman?" Martha glanced toward the poker tables. A knot of cowboys had circled a tall, lean man. Rae Callahan, even seated, commanded attention. Broad shoulders, sun-browned hands around a whiskey glass, dark hair in need of a trim, eyes the gray blue of winter sky. "Marriage ain't for me," Rae drawled, not looking up. "Too much racket. I like quiet mornings and strong coffee." "That's what every fool says till he finds the right gal," said red-headed Hank Tierney, slapping the table. "Or maybe he can't please a woman," Benji Lark crowed crudely. "Why else is he alone at 32? Ray's jaw tightened. "I sleep fine." The men smelled blood. Orson Pike, loud, 3 whiskeys past smart, pushed to his feet. "Tell you what, Callahan," he boomed. "Pick any woman in this room and ask her to marry you. If she says yes, we'll never call you yellow again. If she says no, or you won't ask, you're buying drinks every Friday till Christmas." Conversation stilled. Martha's cheeks burned as she realized she was the only unattached woman present, aside from Ida Belle's working girls who didn't count for a stunt like this. Rae placed his cards face down and stood. He scanned the room. Wives, dance hall girls, hard faces and expectant ones. Then his eyes met Martha's, and the air paused. She didn't see mockery, not pity. Something steadier. "All right," he said quietly. "I'll do it." He crossed the floor with measured steps, boots tapping the boards while the saloon watched like it was a hanging. Martha's heart pounded. He stopped at her table, took off his hat and spoke with unflinching politeness. "Ma'am, I know this isn't conventional, and we barely know more than a nod, but I'm asking, would you marry me?" Silence fell like gun smoke. Martha looked up at Rae Callahan, the horseman who avoided fuss and courtship alike, known from one end of Willow Bluff to the other for his bachelor ways. She thought of her lonely cabin at the edge of town, of her sister Nora's questions about grandchildren, of whispers that hunted her for years. Poor Martha, fat as a Christmas goose and no husband to show. How much bigger will she get if she ever catches one? She remembered Mrs. Pettigrew at the general store, chirping to her daughter that Martha O'Rourke ate too much of her own baking. No wonder she couldn't catch a man. Now every eye pinned her, and Rae stood waiting. Pride rose. Defiance too. Maybe a shard of desperation. "Yes," she heard herself say. "Yes, I'll marry you." Cheers exploded. Whistles, stomps. Ray's face barely changed. He tipped his head. "Thank you, ma'am. Would tonight be too soon?" "Tonight," she echoed. "No sense waiting. Reverend Collier will marry us if we ask right." His gaze held steady. He looked as surprised as she felt, but there was quiet resolve there too. "Tonight," she agreed. The sun sank behind the ridge when Martha walked into the chapel on Laurel Street in her best deep green wool dress, hair braided and pinned with trembling hands. Rae waited at the altar in a clean white shirt and black vest, his dark hair wet-combed. Reverend Collier stood ready with an open Bible. Ida Belle Canton and Hank Tierney served as witnesses. The nearly empty church made their voices echo. "Dearly beloved," Reverend Collier began, We gather in the sight of God to join this man and this woman in holy matrimony. The old words fell over Martha like a river she'd stopped believing she would cross. She was marrying a stranger because of a saloon dare. Madness. Yet something deeper than reason leaned forward. Do you, Rae Michael Callahan, take Martha Kathleen O'Rourke to be your lawfully wedded wife, to have and to hold, for better or worse, richer or poorer, in sickness and in health, till death do you part? I do, he said, steady and matter-of-fact. And do you, Martha Kathleen O'Rourke, take Rae Michael Callahan to be your lawfully wedded husband, to have and to hold, for better or worse, richer or poorer, in sickness and in health, till death do you part? She met his eyes, solemn and honest. I do. By the authority vested in me by the territory of Colorado, I pronounce you husband and wife. Mr. Callahan, you may kiss your bride. The kiss was brief and proper, with a taste of whiskey. When they parted, Martha felt she'd signed a practical contract more than a dreamy promise. Ida Bell clapped. Drinks on the house at the Monarch. Obliged, Rae said, but I think my wife and I ought to get acquainted. He offered his arm. Shall we go home, Mrs. Callahan? The name felt strange, but she nodded and took his arm. They walked through the dusk toward his cabin. Hers now, too. Neither spoke much, both carrying the weight of what they'd done. I want you to know, Rae said at the porch, choosing words carefully. I don't expect anything. I won't force wifely duties. We'll figure it out. Relief and something like disappointment tangled. Thank you, Martha said. We'll learn as we go. Inside, the cabin was larger than hers, 2 rooms, a stone fireplace, sturdy handmade furniture. The air smelled of wood smoke, leather, and coffee. It ain't much, he said, awkward, but it's clean and the roof doesn't leak. It's better than fine, Martha said, setting down her small carpetbag, the sum of her cherished things. They stood together, husband and wife, strangers in the same room, until Rae cleared his throat. There's coffee on the stove. I turn in early. You take the bed. I'll take the floor. That's not necessary. It is, he said, gently but firm. Until we figure this out, I'll be a gentleman. She nodded, a wash of gratitude and curiosity passing over her face. The idea of sharing his bed flashed heat through her cheeks. She busied herself instead, taking in the room's details. Rae, she said softly, why did you really ask me? It wasn't just the dare. He was quiet long enough that she thought he wouldn't answer. Ever been the only single soul at a church supper? The only one at a family table without a ring? He met her gaze. People look at you like you're cracked, like something needs fixing. I've been the only spinster at plenty of gatherings, she said. I know that feeling. Maybe I figured 2 people the town liked to call broken might make one whole marriage. It wasn't pretty, but it was honest. She could hold on to that. Maybe we might, she said. Their first week together unfolded in small discoveries. Martha learned Rae rose before dawn, liked his coffee black as coal, and hummed old trail tunes when he thought no one heard. Rae learned Martha was up almost as early, mixing creams, keeping flawless accounts, and hiding a quick wit behind her quiet. You planning to sell that cream to every woman between here and Denver? He asked one morning as she arranged jars. If they'll buy it, she said, a woman needs to keep herself, husband or none. You got a husband now, I can provide. Her hand stilled. Mr. Callahan, I've provided for myself since 16. I won't stop now that I've got a ring. He studied her. Fair enough, if you need help, ask. I will, she said, softening with a faint smile, but I won't wait on permission to work. Gossip bloomed. Martha heard it during deliveries. Can't believe Callahan married that big girl. Wonder how long. Must have trapped him somehow. The meanness stung, but it steeled her too. She expanded her routes to outlying ranches. Her creams were good, best in 3 counties, and word spread. Rae found himself defending her. When Orson Pike muttered something vile about Martha's figure at the feed store, Rae's hand fell near his gun belt, easy as breathing. Orson, he said, voice quiet as a drawn knife, keep your thoughts about my wife to yourself, or we can discuss them, just us. The rumor traveled faster than dust. Rae Callahan wouldn't tolerate disrespect toward his bride. At home, they developed a rhythm. Martha cooked beans and bacon and biscuits. Rae chopped wood, mended and made, tended his horses. They shared meals in companionable quiet. Yet sometimes sparks arced between them, like the night she came in, cheeks pink from wind, hair loose, and Rae's breath hitched at her strength and beauty. Or the morning he came from the stable cut by a broken bridle buckle, and Martha dressed the wound with steady hands. "You're skilled," he murmured. "My father was always in scrapes," she replied, tying a neat knot. "Had to learn." Their fingers brushed, both felt the spark. She pulled away, but not before color rose at her throat. 3 weeks in, a test arrived. Sadie Blackthorne, banker's wife and queen of Willow Bluff's social circles, came to call. "Martha dear," she sang, "sugared vinegar. I do hope you're settling into your new arrangement." Martha set down her mixing bowl, wiping her hands. "It's kind of you to call, Mrs. Blackthorne. Coffee?" "Oh, I can't stay. Only wanted to say a wife must make certain adjustments. Some women struggle to give up their independent ways." The implication was plain. Close the business. "I appreciate your concern," Martha replied evenly. "But Rae supports my work." "Does he? How modern," Sadie said with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "I suppose a man in his position can't be too particular about a wife's pursuits." The barbs sank. Shame rose hot. Before Martha could answer, boots sounded on the porch. Rae entered, nodded politely. "Mrs. Blackthorne." "Afternoon, Mr. Callahan. I was telling your wife how important it is for a woman to understand her proper role." Ray's face didn't change, but steel flickered in his eyes. "That so? I reckon my wife understands her role just fine. She's building a business that'll serve this town for years. Takes grit most folks don't have." He stood beside Martha, not touching, but close enough to be felt. "A woman's place is in the home," Sadie said sharply. "A woman's place," Rae answered calmly, "is where she chooses to stand, provided she's got the strength and skill. My wife has both in plenty." Sadie left in a huff. In the quiet after, Martha and Rae stood facing each other, the weight of his support settling into something solid. "Thank you," she said. "You didn't have to." "I did," he replied. "We may have married practical, but I won't stand by while someone tries to reduce you. You're my wife." The way he said it, partnership, not possession, made something bright and fragile lift in her chest. "And you're my husband," she answered, surprised at the warmth in it. October brought a letter from Mrs. Victoria Ashcroft, near Colorado Springs, ordering 50 jars of rose cream for wedding favors at $2 a jar. "50, Martha whispered. $100, Rae." He whistled softly. "That's some order. When's it due?" 2 weeks. She swallowed. "I've never made that many at once. I'll need roses from 3 counties. "I can help." "No," she said, too sharp, then gentled. "I'm grateful, but it's my business, my reputation." He nodded. He'd learned when not to push. For 10 days she rose before dawn to pick dew-beaded roses, distilled petals in her copper still, and measured beeswax and almond oil with jeweler care. Her hands blistered, her back ached. She made mistakes she never made when rested. Rae fetched meals she barely ate, tended fires, and kept the house quiet. On the 10th day, trouble struck. Carrying a tray of finished jars, her exhausted legs buckled. 20 jars crashed. Rose cream spread across the boards like spilled summer. Martha stared at the ruin, $40 gone, 4 days left, and supplies short. Her control cracked. She sank among glass and cream and sobbed, wrenching from a place long hoarded. Rae found her and knelt without a word, lifting the larger shards. "Don't," she whispered. "I've ruined everything." "You've ruined nothing," he said, firm but kind. "It's cream and glass. Both can be replaced." "You don't understand. This was my chance to prove I could build something real. I failed." He sat back. "Look at me." She did. "You prove yourself every day. Customers come back because your work is the best they've had. One accident changes nothing. We'll fill what we can. If Mrs. Ashcroft can't accept that, she isn't worth keeping." She wiped her face with her sleeve. "We? I've watched you for 10 days, stubborn woman," he said, the barest smile. "I know how to melt beeswax, measure oils, where to find roses, how long to distill. You taught me without knowing." Hope sparked. "You'd help me? I'm your husband. Your success is mine. Same for failure. We're in this together." For 4 days they worked side by side. Ray's hands were steady. His quiet humor eased long hours. "I always figured marriage was like breaking a wild horse," he said as they stirred a batch. "Lots of bucking till someone quits." "And now?" she asked. "More like training 2 horses to pull together. Takes time to match pace. Once you do, you can pull mountains." They finished 37 jars, short of 50 but perfect. Martha packed them with a letter explaining the mishap and offering the balance at a reduced price. After the stage rolled away, she collapsed in a chair, exhaustion humming through her bones. "Martha," Rae said softly, "when did you last eat or sleep right?" "I don't remember," she admitted. "It's been all cream." He knelt and unlaced her shoes gently. "Some problems," he said with a slow grin, "are solved without clothes on." Heat flooded her face. "Rae Callahan, what are you suggesting?" "I'm suggesting you need rest, comfort, and someone to care for you for once. And maybe we stop pretending this is only a business arrangement." His hands were warm and reverent as he massaged her aching feet. Martha felt something new, the luxury of being precious to someone. "Is that what we've been doing? Pretending?" she asked. "Haven't you?" His gaze turned serious. "I stopped 2 weeks ago when I realized I look forward to coming home because you're here, when watching you work became the best part of my day." Her pulse tripped. This started as a dare, two lonely people making something sensible. But it doesn't have to stay that way. He stilled, careful. "Unless that's all you want." She looked at her husband, kneeling, tenderness warm in his eyes. Her last defenses fell. "It's not all I want," she whispered. He rose, lifted her, and carried her to bed. "Are you sure?" She answered by unbuttoning his shirt with trembling fingers. He caught her hands. If this is your first, we'll go slow. We've got time." "I want this," she said, clear. "I want you. I want us." What followed was tender and consuming. Rae traced reverence where shame had lived too long. Martha learned her body, mocked by others, could be a source of joy and connection in the hands of a man who saw her truly. Afterward, in the quiet, she finally understood that old saying. A night without fire made mornings loud, not from nagging, but from the hollow ache of two people missing each other. They weren't missing each other anymore. 3 months later, Martha felt worn out, queasy at dawn, raw with emotion. Business boomed after the Ashcroft order. She blamed the strain. Ida Bell put 2 and 2 together in the Monarch's back room as Martha fought her breakfast down. "Honey," Ida Bell said gently, "when's your last monthly?" "I've been irregular," Martha hedged. "Stress." "Stress, my foot," Ida Bell said kindly. "You're expecting. A month or more." The words hit like a blow and a blessing. Martha pressed a hand to her belly. "Are you sure?" "Sure as sunrise. How do you feel?" "Terrified. Happy. Both," Martha said, dazed. She walked home with her thoughts racing. How would Rae take it? He'd married her on a dare, accepted her independence, learned to love her strength, but a child was a different pledge. Rae was at the table with the account book, hair fallen over his brow. He looked up and smiled, then saw her face. "Martha? What's wrong?" "I need to tell you something." He closed the ledger, all attention. "Whatever it is, we'll figure it out." "I'm with child." He went still. The clock ticked. "A baby?" he said at last. "Yes. Ida Bell thinks 6 weeks, maybe 7. I know it's not what we planned." "Planned?" He stood so quickly the chair scraped. He reached her in 2 strides, swept her up, and spun her despite her startled protest. "Martha Callahan, I'm going to be a father?" His eyes shone. "I'm so happy I could holler from the steeple." Relief poured through her. "You're not angry or scared?" "Scared? Sure, I don't know the first thing about babies. Angry? No." He cupped her face, brushing tears she hadn't realized had fallen. "A few months ago I was a lonely fool. Now I have a wife I adore, a partnership that works, and a baby on the way. If it's a dream, don't wake me." Joy didn't travel alone. Morning sickness hammered her. Distilling scents turned her stomach. She was bedridden days at a time. Orders piled up, sharp letters arrived. Then Dr. Whitmore visited with a stethoscope and a grin. "Twins," he announced. 2 babies. The room stretched around the news. Logistics flooded in. Space, money, time, sleep. "Well," Rae said, grinning, "I always said you were an overachiever." Martha laughed despite herself. "Only you would joke now." "What else can I do? Panic? We wanted 1 blessing, we got 2. We'll love twice as hard." As her belly grew, so did the town chatter. At the general store, Mrs. Pettigrew told her daughter, "Poor Callahan, stuck with that woman and 2 babes. He'll run before winter's done." The words pricked, even when Martha tried to ignore them. She felt ungainly and tired. The crisis came with the first real snow. The wind howled 3 days. Cooped up, restless, Martha decided to check the chicken coop against Rae's advice, worried about the hens in the cold. The path was slick. She made it there and back. But she slipped on the porch step, falling hard. Pain shot through her back and belly, warmth spread between her legs. "Rae?" She cried over the wind. "Rae!" He reached her fast, went white at the blood, and carried her inside, terrified but steady. "I'm losing them," she sobbed. "Our babies." "No," he said, voice even. "No, you're not." The storm made travel impossible. He looked at the door, then at her, and stayed. "Don't leave," she whispered, gripping his hand. "If I lose them, I won't be alone." For 6 hours he tended her with a tenderness that surprised them both. He cooled her face, held her through the worst pain, and talked without stopping. Memories, hopes, names, plans. "You know what I thought when I first saw you?" he murmured in a lull. "There's a woman who knows her worth, not one needing a man's say-so. You walked in like you owned the place." I was terrified. "Could have fooled me. Chin up, shoulders back, strong," he said, smoothing her hair. "That's what I fell in love with first, your strength." By dawn, the bleeding slowed. When Dr. Whitmore arrived on snowshoes, he found Martha weak but stable and 2 strong heartbeats. "Bed rest," he ordered. 2 weeks at least, up only when necessary. After he left, Martha lay spent, flooding with gratitude and fear. Rae sat beside her, holding her hand. "I thought I would lose everything," she whispered. "You, the babies." "You won't," he said. "You're stuck with me. We promised, in sickness and health. I meant it. Even if I get so big I can barely move?" "Even if." He kissed her softly. "Especially then. Do you know what I see? The woman who built a business with her 2 hands. The wife who makes me laugh. The mother already fighting for our children. And yes, the most beautiful woman in Colorado, getting more beautiful as she carries our babies." Word of the accident spread, and the town showed up. Ida Bell brought soup and bread. Nora Hollis arrived with clean linens and hands ready to work. Even ranch wives who'd once whispered came with food and worry. "Looks like folks are seeing what I've known," Rae said as he helped Martha sip soup. "You're not the town oddity. You're its success." Spring came early, and with it 2 perfect babies, a boy and a girl, born as wildflowers pushed through melting snow. The labor was long and rough, but Rae never left, and Dr. Whitmore declared both healthy. "What will you call them?" the doctor asked, smiling. Martha looked at Rae. Both babies curled against her. "Evan after my grandfather, Lily after the flowers that started all this." "Evan and Lily Callahan," Rae said. "Just right." Chaos followed, crying, feedings, laundry, sleepless nights, and a joy that surprised them both. Rae proved a natural father, walking colicky Evan while humming trail songs, sitting with Lily sleeping on his chest. "You realize," Martha said one evening on the porch, with both babies finally sleeping, "our mornings are loud now." Rae chuckled, arms snug around her shoulders. "Loud but not nagging, full of life. Turns out I was wrong about a lot, thinking marriage would make me miserable, believing I was better off alone, misunderstanding that old saying." "And now?" she asked. "A night without fire brings loud mornings of discontent," he said softly. "But when the fire is real, mornings are loud with laughter, little feet and a house full of love. That's the kind of loud a man should want." 6 months later, Martha's business thrived again. She hired Nora to help with the twins, and orders spread as far as Denver. Rae handled deliveries and accounts. Martha focused on crafting and quality. They were partners in truth. "You know what I love most?" Martha asked one afternoon, stirring a fresh batch while Evan gurgled and Lily kicked. "No one calls it unusual anymore. No one whispers about the fat woman who couldn't catch a husband. They call us the Callahans, the successful couple with the cream and the twins." "Does what they say matter?" Rae asked. "It used to matter too much," she admitted. "Now I just like that they see us for what we are, partners." "Speaking of," Rae said, coming behind her and massaging her shoulders, "I think we need to expand. More products, more everything, more space, more help, maybe more Callahans." She turned, arching a brow. "Rae Callahan, are you suggesting what I think?" He wore the playful grin she'd come to love. "Some problems are solved without clothes. And there's one problem we haven't addressed." "What problem is that? Whether Evan and Lily need a little brother or sister?" Martha laughed, rich and warm. "I think that problem can wait a few months." "Maybe," he agreed, kissing her deeply. "I do enjoy the problem solving." As evening settled over their small, prosperous ranch, Martha thought of the crooked path that led them here. A marriage born of a dare had become the foundation of everything she'd truly wanted. Love, family, work that mattered, and the respect of a community that had once dismissed her. That night, with the twins sleeping nearby, Rae pulled her close and whispered into her hair, "Do you ever regret saying yes in the saloon?" "Never," she said without pause. "Do you regret asking?" "Best decision I ever made," he replied. "Even if it started with showing off for drunk cowhands. Even though marriage is noisier than I expected." They listened to the sounds of home, babies breathing, wind in the cottonwoods, the cabin's gentle creak as it settled. "Especially because it's noisier," Rae said. "This is the kind of noise a man can live with. The kind that means he's truly alive." Martha smiled in the dark, her hand over his steady heart. Sometimes the greatest love stories began with improbable moments. A dare, an underestimated woman, and two people brave enough to say yes when the world expected no. And sometimes those stories earned the most beautiful endings of all. Loud with laughter, bright with love, and quietly certain where it mattered most.